Today I'm going to share with you the personal essay that got me into Duke, Vanderbilt, Georgetown, and a couple other schools. Now I will say, looking back, this essay is probably not the reason why I got into Duke. My admissions officer specifically mentioned that it was my drive to look at medicine from a sociological perspective that was the most interesting part of my application, and that it was this interdisciplinary mindset that made me a good fit for Duke. I'll also be telling you why it sucks, but also why it worked as well. And be sure to stay until the end, where I give you my best advice for writing college essays. Anyway, on with the essay. One day in epistemology class with Mr. Rodriguez, the basis of crime is being discussed. Points are made, but I am unhappy. If a person has a tumor in their brain that clearly caused irrational thinking, can they even be blamed for their criminal act? In that case, isn't all behavior governed by brain activity? Do we blame ourselves or our brains? Are we our brains, or are the brain and body a separate identity? I decide to make my life an unforgiving acquisition of further knowledge, a pursuit I engage in everywhere I go. It only takes one piece of information to fire up my inquisitive nature. Dr. Axelrad, why do you get so heated when insurance companies come up in the conversation? Daniel, all these companies want is money. It costs 20 cents to make this drug. Companies sell it for $1,000. Well, isn't that what insurance is for? How is it so cheap? How are these drugs made? Too many questions, most of them unanswered. And so I turned to books. Flourish, Positive Psychology by Martin Seligman. Angela Duckworth and her grit curriculum. How do you teach or even learn grit? Articles. Honey, the best home remedy for allergies. But how? Honey's found in pollen. Yes, but wouldn't that make you more allergic? YouTube videos. The Daily Stoic. Recently, an online coupon for Wendy's offered a free Dave single with any purchase. Is this real? To test its validity, I purchased the cheapest option, a 50-cent Frosty, and handed the cashier my coupon. It worked. I had a Dave single, normally priced at $5, and a Frosty to go with it, all for 54 cents. Before my first bite, I was in dire need of answers. How does Wendy's earn revenue on such a deal? What does this say about the quality of their options? How are these sandwiches made? Where do these ingredients come from? Needless to say, the burger went cold and the Frosty melted to room temperature. Such is the day in my life. Some questions are tougher. Why does world hunger still exist? Leftover food at restaurants? Food thrown out because it expired a day ago? Isn't there an infrastructure to provide this inordinate amount of food to impoverished countries? Segregation was ruled illegal more than 60 years ago. Why is de facto segregation still happening? Don't the ingredients of a melting pot mix together? What went wrong and what steps need to be taken to resolve this unnerving tension on the crosstown bus? If this is what a bus in New York City, the most diverse city in the world, feels like, what does that say about the United States? Answers seem to never be enough. Each new question raised even more questions. The number of conscious hours I had was no match for my thirst for knowledge. A book has hundreds of references. After I read all 100, the references had 100 each themselves. The quest for knowledge had the opposite effect of what I had hoped to achieve. My thirst for knowledge led me to knowledge, yes, but more so my lack thereof. Aristotle is right. The more I learn, the less I know. I read that the happiest among us are the ones who say it's okay not to know. If that's true, then I'm not happy. Instead, I am drawn to truth. My unbounded curiosity to answer why after why is what drives me. Deeper meanings behind meanings than the meanings behind those. After all, life is but an unforgiving acquisition towards further knowledge. Now, I'm going to be honest and say that this essay, looking back, is not very good. Although it includes a lot of interesting details about my life, it doesn't really tell the admissions officers as much as it should about who I am as a person. Ultimately, the personal statement is just that, personal. I include a lot of information in this essay that isn't necessarily personal or says something concrete about who I am as a person. For example, even in this first paragraph, I talk a lot about this crime/brain/irrational thinking idea. Although these questions that I ask are interesting, does it really say that much about who I am as a person? Instead, a better thing to do here is to simplify and just state the ideas I want to portray outright. Perhaps a very simple sentence like, I could talk about the intersection between crime, the brain, and the law for hours on end. Here's another area where the essay goes off the rails a little bit. Talking about Wendy's for a full 5 sentences might be quirky and all, but it doesn't really do much for me. If I were critiquing this essay, I would recommend this student to cut this section altogether. Now, here's why this essay worked. The whole theme of my application was about my inquisitive nature. So I guess this might tie into what the Duke admissions officer said about my application, which, if you remember, was looking at medicine from a sociological perspective. I wanted to be meta and show off myself as someone who is inquisitive and curious about the world through the numerous quirky questions that I ask in my personal statement. This is why this is probably not the best approach for you to take as a student. I took a risk with this essay, and although it isn't necessarily the best essay, it worked. Now as a bonus, I'll be reading my Duke supplement. The prompt was: if you are applying to the Trinity College of Arts and Sciences as a first-year applicant, please discuss why you consider Duke as a good match for you. Is there something particular about Duke that attracts you? Here goes. Oh, the freedom to architect my education at Duke. I might create my own unique pieces in the style of Socrates. Maybe I'll compose in linear B. Socratic pursuit of truth. Does it apply in science? I love Duke's hands-on focus on biology. While I conduct research in Dr. Heitman's lab, I'll dig deep. I'd explore the unmanifested as I observe Crohn's disease in vitro. I'll ask, can we use natural resources to cure Crohn's disease from a different angle? Duke's intimate professor-student relationships excites me. Maybe with Dr. Heitman, we'll debate the morality of research, cure versus treatment, and healthcare. Then I'll answer my own questions. At the Social Sciences Lab, I might translate how social constructs shape the behavior of Crohn's disease patients. How are Crohn's patients treated? How does this affect them as citizens of society? Outside of the classroom, I'll express myself creatively. Maybe Temptations at Duke could be my chance to kickstart my a cappella career. Years of karaoke might actually come in handy. I'd make sure to balance fun endeavors with serious ones. Duke's liberal education creates room for liberal thinking. As the day winds down, I may ask fellow Blue Devils, how does social media impact society? What caused the surge in gun violence? Can empiricism and rationalism coexist? Duke is the perfect opportunity for me to create knowledge by engaging with peers, conducting independent research, enjoying faculty mentorship along the way, and using study abroad to conduct fieldwork. Oh, what I could accomplish. This was definitely one of my favorite essays to write. For seniors who are watching this is your chance to absolutely gloat over your school or dream school. What you do is go on your dream school's website and explore. Search up what kind of programs they have, what kind of research they're doing, what kind of professors are there, what kind of interesting classes there might be, interesting study abroad programs, extracurricular opportunities, a cappella, which I didn't join, but it happens. You want to use this essay to show the admissions officers how much you actually know about the school. So the key with this essay is making sure that you combine a couple of elements of what you've done in high school. So for example, I did Crohn's disease research for 2 summers in high school. Showing that I want to continue that research in college is a positive. So as you can see from here, I looked up similar opportunities and research at Duke regarding Crohn's disease that I could talk about in this essay. But of course you want to talk about things in this essay that are not academic as well. But overall, have fun with it. That's the most important thing. Finally, here is the note that I got from my Duke admissions officer shortly after admission. It reads as such: Hi Daniel, welcome to Duke. I had the privilege of reviewing your application and advocating on your behalf in front of the admissions committee. I think your desire to pursue medical school, but from a sociological perspective, is really neat. The prototypical Duke student's interests vary across the academic spectrum, and I think you fit that mold perfectly. We would be fortunate to have you as part of our community. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. So as you can tell from the note, it's pretty clear that this supplemental that I just read was probably a big reason for why I got into Duke. But aside from that, my admissions officer mentioned that the typical Duke student has a wide range of academic interests, and perhaps my personal statement, with its erratic array of questions, helped push me through as well. Here's my advice for current high school students applying to college who are stressed about writing their college essays. You are unique because there's only one person that is you, and that is you. Your essays will be the lifeline to college admissions. And the way that you write a beautiful essay, and an effective one, is to make sure that you know yourself as best as you can. Think about it like this. Do you really think you can write a good personal statement if you don't even know yourself that well? It took me many months and many revisions and many trashed essays not to figure out how to write a good essay, nor even a completed essay to begin with, but to figure out who I even was as a person, to figure out what I wanted to be defined by. So figure that out first, and the rest of it will come easy. Writing will be 90% you staring at a blank doc, having an existential crisis, because that's exactly what this process should do to you. You should be absolutely confused as to what you're going to end up writing about. I just want to give you guys a heads up that on the very last day, before the deadline, I completely scrapped my personal statement and wrote another one. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen to you or that you need to do that as well, but just know that it's a long process and it's not a straight line either. It'll be defined by ups and downs and a lot of sideways movements. Anything that's creative in nature will be difficult, college essay writing included. So whether you're a high school freshman, high school sophomore, high school junior, or a high school senior that's currently in the process of writing their college essays, before you even begin to stress about writing your college essays, try to think about who you are as a person first. Ask yourself, do you know yourself? Do you really? I think you and I both know that when we read a piece of writing, watch a YouTube video, hear a podcast, or even just look at someone's facial expression, we can tell whether they're being authentic or not. It's no different for college essays. True authenticity will shine. And the thing about authenticity is that you can't fake it. So before you do anything else, figure out your authentic self first. Be gentle with yourself. Talk to yourself. Ask yourself in the shower. Talk to yourself in the shower. Who am I? What am I defined by? What do I value?